Now we write the name reducer, which is actually, I think there's only one name thing, right? So if action.type is update name, then return this. Oh, in this case, we need to return state. In this case, we'll just return state. What did I do? Oh, return action.name. Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, that's right. Oh, and sorry, I need to change this too, because now the state that we're getting is not the whole state, but we've already gotten the messages out. So here I just need to say return action.messages. And here I just need to say return this little neat thing. Yeah. What did I do? Oh, thank you, thank you. Sorry, I was like, what? Which part of it? Thanks. Yeah, this video's not going to be the greatest, but this review isn't the greatest, so that's okay. Okay, so the name reducer now operates on name. In fact, maybe it'll be less confusing if we do call this messages. And then this is messages, and this is messages, and here this is name. And then the new message entry reducer takes new message entry and an action, and if action.type is right message, it returns action.content. Otherwise, we return new message entry, and that's it. Okay, so I think this will work. I hope this will work. I guess we can see if this works, but that's scary. So this is what combined reducers is doing. It's not doing this part. This part you have to do. But this is basically what it's doing. Obviously, it's a little more configurable than this. But it's for each of the how does it work? It's like combine reducers, and then I would say messages is the messages reducer, name is the name reducer, and so on. It's basically looping over this object and calling each thing and looking up that part of state in order to hand that reducer that part of state to manage. And then it just wraps the whole thing into an object and returns. Does that help? Oh, cool. And then you put these into their own files, and you don't have to have one giant file anymore. You usually have a stored, yeah, you usually have a store.js file that just has like this, basically. So you would have like, you might even have combined reducers here. And then messages. I like to do this even, or actually, import I forget where it asks you to put it, but you could just say it's messages.js. And then the others. This may not return what you want it to return. I think this returns a promise, actually. Never mind. Just import it the normal way. Yeah. Okay. Other questions? Other parts you would like to see, or problems you could not resolve that came up during refactoring? How what? It's not being called on 108. We're just passing it in. Yeah, so it's happening inside of the store's dispatch method, which, let's see if it's even here. It is here, which is great. My poor computer is a little bit sad right now. So this is Redux. So this is Redux. It's the create store file. And if we look at dispatch, okay, there's subscribe. We looked at subscribe. Okay, here's dispatch. So dispatch, we saw this before. It looks up some stuff on the action, and then if all of these checks pass and it's not already dispatching, it calls the current reducer, which is your reducer. It's the thing you passed in with current state and the action, and the new current state becomes whatever it returns. That is literally where it's called. I don't know how helpful that was necessarily. Yeah. Yeah, no, this is where. Yep. And when, so the thing that middleware does, what apply middleware is doing is it's like composing these functions together in such a way that the bottommost function gets called with the store and returns a function that gets called with dispatch, with like literally this dispatch function, and returns a new dispatch function. And then this gets called with the store, and then the function that it returns gets called with the dispatch function that this logging middleware returned. So that's how the middleware chains together, is that the second to last middleware gets called, its next is the dispatch function returned by the last middleware, and all the way down. So when you're defining middleware, you get a few opportunities to change how the store behaves, but the main one is that you get to return a new dispatch function, which means that you can do stuff to an action before it hits the store's dispatch, which means that, for example, you can accept like functions, which is what the func middleware does. What's that? How to fix the channel names. Oh, sure. What file is that in? Okay, right. So and normally I would type all this, but right now I'm feeling like a in the top of and out the bottom kind of way. Yeah. Yeah, you just check out the solution branch. That actually works for all coding ever. Oh, you mean putting it on state? Yeah, that is cheating, isn't it? This should come from the router somehow, no? You know, I agree. This is cheating. Let's fix it. Oh, start thing. It's cheating and it's not ideal. So this is all we need, right? Am I still compiling? What the hell could I possibly be compiling? Okay, anyway. So is the navbar mounted under the router? That's one question. Main, it's not inside the switch or inside a route. Okay, so I think in order to get router params. Oh, sorry. Oh, thank God it's running. It's running now, which is great. But still very slow for me. So, okay, so in order to get router params, we're going to have to call with router on it. So instead of exporting default class navbar, we're going to export with router this function. Export, sorry, default with router. And then we should probably import with router if we're going to use it. Like import with router from React router DOM, and then go and look at Chrome and observe whether I've broken everything. Okay, so I don't appear to have broken everything. Is it actually building, though? It's like, I don't trust that I made that change without breaking things. Okay, so that's okay. Let's see what props we're getting by making this JSON.stringify props. That's going to make our channel name really long. Yeah, great. Okay, so it's channels 1. That's going to be, yeah, that's our ID. That's going to be in the channel list, I believe. What's that? Yeah, it's, I mean, it's, I could have just opened the React DevTools and like dug into it, but honestly, the like rate my fan is going, I'm afraid that opening the React DevTools will just crash everything. This is like something intense is happening. Okay, but I do know that, let's see, path, what is this thing? History, location, path name, or maybe just location. Is that a thing? Location. Yeah, so location, path name. Path name. Okay. Oh, actually, but there's also isn't there match params channel ID? No. Okay, fine. I can open the React DevTools without exploding. That's very reassuring. And if I inspect this, match params. Why do you suppose it's not matching params? I guess this is not under a route. Oh, look at what the hell with router is doing. With router, I guess not surprisingly, just installs a route above the component you give it, which means that we could replicate the behavior of with router by pulling in route and exporting a component that renders. We're going to use that in a second. Navbar. A component that renders that route. It's going to match channels, how about just channels ID, and render this component what is it complaining about now? What could possibly be wrong? So I'm saying route and then match. I'm probably like out of prems or something. Yeah, there we go. But then I think I just don't need that. Still no dice. Let's see what's going on here. Route match channels ID. Render this. It is rendering. Oh, sorry, this should just be ID. No? Really? So here's the route. Here's the match. It's not matching any params. Why would that be? And then this. Yeah, so we need to get the name in order to find the ID. We need to get the ID in order to find the name. Once we have the ID, we can look up the name on state, on the Redux state. I don't know, why is this not matching? Let's see. What about our, oh, path. Maybe that's why. Oh, and maybe it's component. Maybe I just, oh, there we go. Yeah. I just got every single thing wrong. It's not match and render, it's path and component. Gosh, I wish something had complained. Okay, so now we're getting the ID, which is great, because it means that we can, here, let's, navbar is that, and then, actually, I think we want to invert the sense of this, so I'm going to export default, that thing, render the component connected navbar. Connected navbar is going to be connect this component, and we need to get this ID off of props, which I think we can do by saying, or off of the store, which means get the, what is it, channel list? And, or is it just channels? And the match params ID, and then return channel ID will be, channel name is channels find the channel with that ID .name. But this is not going to work now because we don't have the channel list on state. I will, however, throw this code up there for you to look at. Also, I can see why they didn't have, the workshop did not have you do this. Okay. I think we've got, we've got hot seat in 15 minutes. But that's still loads of time to ask me to do. Yeah, it's already very warm. Are there any other stupid coding tricks you'd like me to perform? Yeah. Why won't it work? I don't know, maybe render would work. I think render, actually I'm not sure. I think component actually mounts this component under the route, whereas render just calls it like a render function. But I'm not exactly sure. We could check it out, but actually if we're going to check it out some more, I'm gonna grab this code and I'm gonna check out the day to solution. And let's see if this works. So in the store, in channels, it looks like let's see, the reducer combines reducers. It is called channels. Okay, so we should be able to do all this. The connected navbar can't resolve React Redux. Oh, we do need connect. We have connect. We also need route. React Redux was not installed? What? I don't believe you. That's an awful lot of errors. Cannot find module React Redux. Really? That's the hill you're gonna die on? Is it bundling for one thing? This ability to serve a bundle that has not yet been compiled is really not a feature. Or that is not the most recent bundle, also not a feature. Oh, shit. I think I just installed React Redux into Redux, into the Redux node module, which is, I wonder if that's going to cause a problem. I think it won't, because I think Redux, by definition, does not know about React Redux, so it just won't be trying to import it. But it's not ideal. Oops. Oh yeah, that was not installed for reasons that we will never know. Come Come on, Webpack. Webpack. Oh, there, it Webpacked. Webpack packed. That's awesome. Cannot read name if undefined. Find that dot name. Do we suppose that oh, I think I know the problem. So I think the problem is that triple equals will not coerce to a string, and we actually do want it to be a string in this case. So there are no channels in the channels list. So let's just handle that. Current channel and channel. How about we'll do like, if we have a current channel, look at its name. Otherwise, don't print anything. Cool. And so now, if we just look at channel name, then this will be really? There we go. Yay! And now you don't have to track the channel name. You just have to write all of this. You don't have to write all of that. These console logs are extraneous. So so this is kind of insane code. The main thing to take away, though, is, or two main takeaways. One is the route goes outside the connected component, not the other way around. This is particularly relevant if you're using the with router higher order component. That needs to go outside the connect. Otherwise, connect will say, don't update me. It will tell React that basically the component should not be updated because the store state has not changed. So connect always goes as deep inside as possible so that optimization doesn't screw you up. And so in this case, we have this connected, we should call this a connected navbar. Or I guess even just navbar. Here, let's make this a little nicer. And we'll connect. Okay. This might be a little bit more familiar. Yeah. Yeah, let's not use destructuring for all of this. Let's say that this is own props, right? These are the props that we are receiving. I could even just call, yeah, I guess own props is how they refer to it. That is, these are the props coming in from the route. So really I want to say id equals own props.match.params.id. That's what that was saying. Or if you are nuts. The sensible, I think the sensible use of destructuring would be to say this. That way you're not repeating yourself, but you're also like, this is actually shorter than this madness, and probably also more understandable. And then channels is plucked out of state. Okay. Other questions? I want to reiterate that there's like a limited amount of React Redux on the checkpoint, and two, if Redux feels a little bit repetitive right now, that's okay. Its real value comes in doing like harder stuff, like games are particularly good, which you may or may not do in senior phase. Like you get to drive your own project. So if you find yourself in a case where you think Redux will like really help your thought processes, then you should use it. It's a good tool. If you find yourself in a case where it doesn't seem like it'll be very helpful, then don't use it, because sometimes you don't need to use an angle grinder. With that connect?
This, or yeah, we connect, or are we going to use like Redux separately, like on top of React? Like
so I am pretty sure that it is vaguely written. It sort of expects you to use connect, like that's how the specs will describe what's going on, but it does not actually require that you use connect. Like connect is just calling subscribe on the store, so you can just do that and pass all the specs. Yeah, either way is fine. It might be easier. If you don't find it easier, then don't use it. Okay. Any last questions? Let me check. I thought there was, but then I didn't see it in one location, but let me check another. If there is, I'll send it out, for sure. Or possibly record one and send it out. Yeah, I don't see it linked, but I'll ask around. Someone probably has one. It might be Tom just talking through it live somewhere. Yeah.
I'm a little fuzzy on own props. I know it's an object. I know it has methods. I'm not quite sure what own props are.
Yes. Yeah, so these are the props that were, okay, so connect returns a component. It's a higher order component, so it takes a component and returns a component. Own props are the props that were put on that component. The one that was returned. So in this case, we are returning a component and calling it connected navbar, and then we're putting it here, which means that the props on this component are going to be the props given to us by the router. So we could call this router props in this case. It's going to be whatever like whatever is put on them where it's used. So if I was like component oh, sorry, if I did, instead of this route thing, if I did connected navbar router, oh wait, sorry, match is params ID 99. Oh wait, let's do 5. That might actually be a thing. What are you complaining about? Oh, this needs to be a yes, like that. Then it'll always be channel 5. So I'm always seeing the title of channel 5 even when I'm not there. Because I've explicitly passed in match params.
Are the own props that are coming out from the current machines, like, are those properties basically like a static snapshot of like the space that's coming from the storage?
These properties,
Yeah.
these are like literally the like key value pairs that were put on this component when wherever it was mounted.
Oh, wherever it's mounted.
Yeah, so it's hidden here because it's mounted by the route internally somewhere. So you don't get to see that code directly. So instead of doing this, I'm just like mounting it myself to show you. And so like if we print router props, then it's going to be whatever I've given it here. So I threw in hello world, and look, there's hello world. And also this match params thing that I put there. Which I did only so that this wouldn't throw an exception.
So, sorry, but is there any relationship between like the properties, the router props, and like the state?
No. No, none whatsoever.
Okay.
It's just like whatever was thrown in. I mean, there kind of might be, like in this case, this ID refers to the ID of a channel in the store. So there might be that kind of relationship, but it's not like connect isn't making a relationship there. Yeah, we could also just call this props, which might be like more like what we're used to, but it's arguably confusing because these props are not the same as these props,
Yeah.
and this is called map state to props, so that's why that's why we call it own props.
So where do those own props come from? I guess I'm a little confused, like where the properties are, like, so we actually define what that own prop is.
Yeah, so right here, for example,
That's where we're defining.
yeah. Some other prop is 1, 2, 3.
Okay, so theoretically it would be undefined until you
It'll always at least be an empty object because props are always an empty object at a minimum. If there are no, like if I had this, there are no key value pairs, so it would be an object with no keys. Now it'll be an object with these keys and these values. If I reload. Hello world, some other props, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. And then it's kind of hidden from us where that's happening inside the route, but somewhere the router mounts connected navbar and gives it props based on the current route. And some of those props are the ID extracted from the path, which is how this whole thing works. Sorry? So it'll pass in own props that have all of the router stuff. So like history and location, and for our purposes, the thing we care about is match. And that's like where this is happening is just kind of hidden for us. It's like happening inside the route component. It's kind of like these were the arguments your function was actually called with, wherever it was called. And in this case, it's like literally a callback, right? We're passing in our connected navbar function into route. Route is going to call it with some arguments. We don't know what those will be exactly. It's up to the router what those will be, and it happens to be this. And own props gives us access to them. Yeah, I mean, this is a complex setup, right? We have two higher order components. One, well, I guess this is not exactly a higher order component, but we have this route that calls, that like mounts another component under it, and then we have connect, which is a higher order component that like adds another layer. If we go and examine this whole thing in the React DevTools, it's going to have like 3 layers of components in it. So like here's that route. Under that route, it mounts, so the route mounts this connected navbar component, which is this, which receives these props from the route. You always get your props from the component directly above you. That's the only component that can give you props. So wherever you were mounted, that component decided what props to give you. And in this case, the route component gives any children it mounts these history, location, and match props. It's like, here's the route, here's why you exist. It's like your genealogy. And then this is still not our navbar component exactly. This is the component that's generated by connect, which takes these props, the ones given to it by the router, and puts them in here, and then it takes the current store state and puts it here, and calls map state to props in order to generate the actual props which go on the navbar here. And also, I guess it passes the own props through. So we see the router props, and then we also see channel name, which is what we found here. So there's like several layers before anything can happen. And it all works like magic. Dark magic. Okay. Any last questions, comments, or concerns? You're done. You're done with React. There's nothing more to learn about React, except for context, which we'll never teach you. You have to find out about that the hard way. All right, great. Great work this week. I know this has been a hard week with a lot of learning, and that can be painful. So now let's drink and talk about our feelings. Yay.